Okay, before we get started, just the usual disclaimer. This is all for educational purposes. It is not financial advice.
All right, let's dive right in. We are going to unpack a really critical 37-day period for the PLAZM protocol. This is the complete journey, the inside story of how just 126,000 burned tokens managed to snowball into over 1 million.
And really, it all comes down to this one number, a 700% increase. I mean, think about that. That's the kind of insane growth in burned tokens we're looking at. A number like that, well, it definitely deserves a closer look, and that's exactly what we're going to do. You know, this right here, this basically tells the entire story in 2 snapshots. We kick things off on day 84 with about 126,000 tokens burned. Just 37 days later, that number had absolutely rocketed past the 1 million mark. And the key thing to get here is that this wasn't some accident or a lucky break. Nope. This was the system doing exactly what it was designed to do, especially under pressure. So, to really understand how this happened, we're going to break it down into 6 key parts. We'll look at the transformation, the anatomy of the burn, the huge shift in conviction, surviving the gauntlet, the final proof, and the legacy this all creates. Okay, first up, the 37-day transformation. Let's start with that big picture overview. Setting the stage for everything that went down from the very beginning of the stress test all the way to hitting that incredible 1 million token milestone. So here's how the timeline played out. It all kicked off on day 84. Just 10 days later, boom, first major test passed. Another 20 days go by and it clears the final hurdle. Then, just a week after that, it completely smashes through the million burn mark. Believe me, this was no walk in the park. It was a gauntlet, and the protocol ran it perfectly. So that's the what. Now let's get into the how. It's time to dive into the anatomy of the burn. How on earth did we get that 700% growth? What were the mechanics actually doing behind the scenes? Let's deconstruct it.
And what's so cool here is you can see it wasn't just one big explosive event. It was this steady, methodical climb, like climbing a ladder. We started 3% of the supply gone on day 84, then we hit 8%, then we break into double digits at 10% on day 100, and finally, we're at 15% by the end. Every single step was just more proof that the engine was humming along perfectly.
Okay, but here's the real kicker. The burn rate didn't just continue, it accelerated by 360% right in the middle of the stress tests. This is the absolute definition of an anti-fragile system. It doesn't just survive pressure, it gets stronger. And why does that matter so much? Come on, this is crypto. Pressure is the one thing you can always count on. So having a system designed to thrive in that chaos, that's a game changer. Lower prices literally meant more burns. It wasn't a bug, it was the feature working perfectly.
But look, burning tokens is only one part of the story. The best mechanics in the world mean nothing without the people behind it. So let's talk about that human element. We're calling this the Great Conviction Shift, and it's all about how the community's belief, measured by staking, fundamentally changed everything.
And you can see that belief right here in the numbers. Staking practically doubled. We're talking a 91% leap from 1.24 million tokens all the way to 2.37 million. That is over 1 million new tokens locked away by the community in just over a month. And you can see these massive spikes in conviction happening right after the protocol passed each stress test. People weren't on the sidelines watching, they were jumping in with both feet. So what does that kind of commitment do to the supply? Well, let's look at the before picture. On day 84, things were pretty much split right down the middle. 50% of the supply was protected, staked, in LPs, or burned, and the other 50% was liquid, just out there, able to be sold. Okay, now fast forward those 37 days. Look at this. The picture is completely different. That protected supply is now nearly 3/4 of the total. And the liquid sellable supply, it's been squeezed down to just 27%. This isn't just a minor tweak. It's a fundamental restructuring that makes the entire protocol so much more robust. Why? Simple. Less liquid supply means more stability and less vulnerability to massive price swings. So how did this happen? How was this stronger structure forged? Well, it was a trial by fire. That conviction we just saw wasn't built when things were easy, it was earned in the trenches. Which brings us to our next section, surviving the gauntlet. We're going to look at the 2 huge token releases that were designed to push the system to its absolute breaking point. The protocol stared down 2 massive challenges. First up, day 94, a release of 733,000 tokens. Result? Passed. Check.
Then, day 114, another huge release, almost 500,000 tokens. Result? Passed. Again. That is a perfect record under what can only be described as extreme pressure. And here's the thing, it didn't just survive, it actually thrived. There were absolutely zero protocol failures. The system's own vault got stronger by acquiring over 1,900 new bonds. That's a 32% jump. And if you think of bonds as basically the protocol buying its own liquidity, it's becoming more and more self-sufficient. On top of that, it generated nearly $13,000 in real yield. And, get this, storing the day 114 test, staking increased by 90,000 tokens. The protocol literally got stronger while under attack. Wild. Okay, so this brings us to the big conclusion, the final proof. After looking at all this data, all these successful tests, and that huge 1 million burn milestone, what does it all prove about the protocol's design at its core?
Well, it proves 4 fundamental things. Number 1, the mechanism flat out works. It accelerated burns when the pressure was on. Number 2, that whole anti-fragile idea isn't just a buzzword, it's real. The protocol emerged stronger from stress. Number 3, the commitment is genuine. We saw over 66 grand in profits deployed as actual yield. And number 4, compressing the supply is a powerful compounding force. With nearly 18% of the supply just gone forever, that creates a permanent deflationary pressure that helps everyone involved.
So let's wrap this all up. Let's look at the legacy of proof that this period created. This is the complete scorecard, putting the entire 37-day transformation into one clear picture. I mean, just look at this scorecard. Every single metric is in the green. Burns, up 700%. Staking, up 91%. Protected supply, up 23 points. Bonds, up 32%. T-squared shares, which measure long-term conviction, up a massive 80%. And real yield, up by almost 13 grand. That's 9 out of 9 core metrics, all improved, a 100% success rate. The transformation, absolutely complete.
126,000 to 1 million, 37 days, 700% growth. Every single metric improved, every test passed, 0 failures. You see, this isn't just about burning tokens. It's about a protocol that proved it does exactly what it claims: anti-fragile, by design, and now, by data.
And that's the complete journey. Just one final reminder, of course, this is all for educational purposes. This is not financial advice. Please never invest more than you're willing to lose, and always, always do your own research before making any financial moves. Thanks for tuning in.